Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team. I'm a little bit sick, so you have to excuse me if I'm sniffling or something. What we're going to be talking about today is Warriors of Chaos, and in particular, the Market Tzeentch. And then even more particular, we're not going to be talking about characters, but no magic. We're just talking about really putting it on the fighters and things like that. So, compared to some other things where there could be a lot of math to it, there could be, it's not like when you're trying to compare what type of weapon you're going to be taking, because you're not comparing all these type of stats here. The main thing you're just going to be comparing is more survivability, because it's the main thing that the Market Tzeentch gives you is that it gives you a 6+ ward save, or if you don't have a ward save, it improves it by 1. So in general, the math is fairly easy, but at the same time it can be a little bit tricky too. So I just wanted to go over that really quick just to make sure everybody's clear. So when you're looking at a 1 in 6 ward save, basically what you need to know to make sure that it's worth it is that you know that that's going to be saving you 1 in 6 times. So if you take the cost of that upgrade times by 6, if that is less than what the cost of the character is before you put that upgrade on, then you know it's worth it. Or sorry, after you put the upgrade on it. If it's more expensive, then that means it's not worth it. So at that stage, it's really fairly simple. The spot where this gets more complicated is that part where I said where if you already have a ward save, it improves it by 1. So let's say we're talking about a parry save. Normally you'd have a 6+ ward save. If you have that mark, it becomes a 5+. And the difference here is, whereas before you're comparing 1 in 6, well, you were already going to be 1 in 6 safe before. So now you're improving your chances by 1 in 5. So now you just got to times that mark by 5, and if that's cheaper, then it's worth it. And so if we go ahead and look, if you had a character that you gave an item that had a 4+ ward save to begin with, so that giving them the mark gives them a 3+, well, then all of a sudden it's a 1 in 3. So as long as you just times that thing by 3, and with the mark, it's not that expensive on the character, really. I mean, it's totally worth it. When you're looking at it for some examples, let's say for Marauders, right? Where either for a lot of these times you could give them light armor or other upgrades. Well, when you compare the cost of light armor to the Market Tzeentch, both of them are giving you a 6+ save, just one's armor and one's ward. And the armor is on a per model basis, the mark is on a per unit basis. So when the unit gets big enough, that ratio of points per person will be low enough that it's actually more worth it. And in fact, the great thing about ward saves is that there's very little in the game that actually negates it or forces you to re-roll or anything like that. Whereas anything with a strength higher than 3 will be reducing the armor save. So, and a lot of times you're going to say that, geez, that ward save is a great thing to have. Why aren't people taking this ward save? And one of the things that I find it's a funny comparison is if you look at Bretonnians, I'm always told when I play with them that, oh, you get that 6+ extra ward save. Oh, that's so cheesy. But a lot of times when they look at the save on Warriors of Chaos, they go, oh, a 6+ ward save. What's the use of that? So it's kind of funny to see that difference. But one of the things you got to balance as well is that, the question is, okay, well, why doesn't everybody take the Market Tzeentch on their units? Well, sometimes they take other marks. So, of course, you can't have the Market Corn and the Market Tzeentch. And so you have to kind of pick and choose. Now, there's some other little synergies you have to look on past this. One of the things I was talking about was with the parry save. So if you're looking at a defensive unit, so let's say we have your Marauders that have shields, all of a sudden you throw that mark on and they have a 5+ parry, which is fantastic in combat, and you've kept them fairly cheap at the same time. So part of this though is where the math gets a little bit harder, because I was talking about before where it has to be worth 1 in 6, 1 in 5, but at this point that bonus is only going to be in combat. So with that example, he would have a 5+ ward in combat and a 6+ ward from shooting. So it really depends on what type of group you play in and what the metagame is, but the way I usually look at it is that in 8th, usually the first 2 turns you're getting shot, the next 2 turns you're in combat, and the last 2 turns you're really just settling things out the majority of the time. The game's already over and one side's cleaning up. So really, you're looking at the halfway point between the two. So, But as I said, if you're playing a game or a meta game where everybody goes for lots of combat, well, then you're looking at the more of the ×5 to be worthwhile. Whereas if you're in a very shooty group, you need to go to the ×6 group to see it's worthwhile. Another thing we have to keep this in mind for is magic resistance. That's another spot where all of a sudden, if you have this better ward save, your magic resistance can be quite a bit better. So, if you're throwing a character into that unit that has that mark to Tzeentch, all of a sudden you can be getting a lot of synergy out of that. So you got to kind of work it to get the most for your points. One of the things you have to kind of watch for, though, is that you don't want to get caught wasting your points. So as I said, part of that synergy was with having the parry save. However, if you have Frenzy, then all of a sudden you lose your parry save altogether. So if you were to have some units, let's say a unit of Chaos Warriors that had shields and the mark to Tzeentch, so a 5+ ward save, but all of a sudden then you have a BSB or something there giving them the Banner of Rage, which gives them Frenzy, well then they'd have no parry at all. So you have to keep in mind that you're looking at the 1 in 6 rather than the 1 in 5 ratio there for whether it's going to be worth it or not. And a lot of times people will say then, well, okay, then that's obviously a stupid combination. If I ever saw somebody that had that shield, mark to Tzeentch, and the Banner of Rage, they're idiots and I can just be ignoring them. But that's not completely true either, because most warrior units, if you're going out there with, let's say you don't even have shield, let's say you have great weapons, you're just being left with that 4+ armor save. Well, at some point, sometimes it's good to specialize and you have defensive units and you have offensive units, but then it's always good to have some of that middle ground. So if you have these units of, let's give them halberds, and then you give them the mark to Tzeentch, so that they're not having a shield because it's 2 hands for the halberd, but at least they're going to have that 4+ armor save and then the 6+ ward to find that little bit of middle ground. So that's really what I was trying to hit home. As I said, it's all just real basic math, but you got to understand how the math changes as you do different things. Yeah. Sorry. Andy, come here.
What is it?
Come here. We need your help.
What is it?
All right. If you were to have an army, would you ever give it the mark to Tzeentch?
Yeah.
Is it really good?
Yeah.
Would you ever give it the mark of Corn? What if you had to choose? What do you like better, the mark of Corn or the mark of Tzeentch?
The team.
There you go. So as voted by my daughter, you should go with the mark of Tzeentch. So thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.